What's up, streamers? This is your host, King Tetra. We're in deep waters today. In the booth, I got Liberal Nate, Big Aaron, and we're going to be talking about this Syrian and U.S. conflict. So, I'm going to break down a few of the facts that we have. So, on April 4th, there were reports that the Syrian government gassed their civilians with some chemical attack, killing around 100 people, 29 children. The report stated that Assad, the president of Syria, was to blame. Although Russia and the Assad both claimed innocence, right? Meanwhile, Nikki Haley, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, said that the Assad was responsible and vowed that we weren't going to take it as the United States. Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, also condemned the Syrian government for it, said that they knew that they were the ones that did it and where they did it from. Trump even had a statement about it, condemning the action, spoke about the children, which when you look at that, anybody is going to see the children and it's going to pull on your heartstrings. However, on April 6th, our U.S. government fired 59 Tomahawk missiles to an airport in Syria that we believe that was where they flew the planes from with the chemical attack, right? Now, there's been conflicting reports whether or not it was completely destroyed, how many missiles hit. I've heard 29 missiles hit. Some of them Russia intercepted. Some of them missed the target. I don't really know the facts behind how many hit, what type of damage was created, if it destroyed anything, whether there was chemical gas explosions. I haven't seen any reports of that. But Trump did have a news conference about the strike. He admitted, yes, we had a strike. Nikki Haley stated that we had the strike and are prepared to do more strikes, but hopefully that this will curtail everything, that the Assad and the Syrian government will not use more weapons, I guess. But also, Russia condemned the U.S. for the strike, saying it was considered an act of war. And at this point, Putin has moved one of his large warships to the same area where our ships were in the sea, right outside the Syrian border, in regards to have the ability to strike down any missiles that we try to launch, because our ships had to leave to reload. So he sent a battleship in. So at this point, I mean, like I said, the waters are really murky. We're in deep water right now. We're on the brink of something very dangerous. So as being a staunch Trump supporter, I myself can say that I do not condone this action. So where do you guys stand? Nate?
Well, with you being a Trump supporter and you not condoning the action, at first you thought that, he's going to do good and come in there and do the right things. And he was the good guy in your eyes, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I think that at this point it's really difficult for us to believe in or even know who a good guy is in this war. Like when you opened up, you said the Syrian conflict, which is exactly how it's described, to desensitize us to the fact that it is in fact a war that obviously we're actively participating.
There's a civil war going on in Syria right now.
But here we call it a conflict. It is the Syrian war.
Correct.
But we call it the conflict. Even though we're involved, when we're involved, it should be called war. But we still here call it the Syrian conflict. So what I'm basically saying is, like, it's difficult at this point to know who the good guy is or the bad guy is when everyone who's participating is communicating with each other the fact that they're going to do these things. Like Putin was aware that they were going to carry out the gas attack.
Correct.
He knew that was going to happen.
He gave them an advance notice so they could clear out. He didn't want any deaths. although there was supposedly some deaths.
Wait, the gas attack? I thought you meant like the missile attack, not like the
Well,
Syrian gas attack.
the Assad told Putin, or let Russia know, maybe he didn't tell Putin, but he let Russia know that he was going to be carrying out this attack.
I thought you were talking about
the missile.
Trump.
Let them know.
Trump also let him know. So Putin knew from both sides what was about to happen.
So I haven't heard any reports as far as Assad.
He's denying it.
Yeah, they've denied that.
Why would we gas our own people? That's horrific.
Oh, okay.
We didn't do
it's
it.
true
Right.
that he is denying it, but what I read stated that the Syrian government, didn't say Assad, it said Syrian government, had made Russia aware that it was going to be taking place.
Well, why would they do that?
Well, let's not get into that straight so much right now.
Oh, okay.
So, but your thoughts on the actual attack and where, because as being an American citizen, no, I'm not a Russian, I'm not a Syrian, I'm not a Middle Eastern. How do you feel about this going on right now? You know what I mean? Like, we can say this person knew, that person knew, or whatever's going on. And hopefully we'll get to some of that. Mm-hmm. But I just want your overlying thought process about it. And then we'll get to Aaron.
I think that it's a conflict that's really largely based around the control for profit for oil, which is what mainly happens for that region, period, all the time, every decade.
Okay. So Aaron, tackling or coming back from what he said, what I said, starting up, what is your underlining view on this action?
I'm kind of surprised by all the hypocrisy flying around coming from Prime Minister Medvedev, because he's saying that what the United States did was very, very illegal in the eyes of the international community because it wasn't UN sanctioned, and there was no real grounds for doing it because there's no specific proof that Assad's government ordered the strikes and told or was responsible even. But everything that the Russians have been doing...
So, if I could stop you, for our listeners, who is Medvedev?
Medvedev is the Russian prime minister at the moment.
Okay.
And he used to be the president, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, of Russia. And he's basically just part of Putin's inner circle. But from my perspective, what the Russians have been doing, considering the fact that there's been reports that the Russians knew in advance that the chemical strikes are going to happen. There's not specifically proof, but it's been talked about that they knew in advance. That is a horrible breach of UN legislation, and there should be no way that Russia wouldn't have just said, "Hey, whoa, do not do that." That's not only is that a strike on people, that's an attack on your own civilians that have no way to defend themselves against their own government sending chemical weapons against them.
Okay, so I guess that's both y'all guys' not open arguments but obviously open opinions. Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, like, I agree, but I disagree in some format. One, I haven't seen anything or heard anything, and I could be wrong too. I can't read every news article, but that doesn't make it true either. But I haven't seen anything that indicates that the Syrian government has admitted or gave Russia any pre-notice that they were going to do a chemical strike, and nor does it make sense why they would do a chemical strike at a time when they were actually winning the battle against the rebels. So with all that in mind, when I first heard about this chemical attack, I was kind of taken back, and immediately I jumped into, I don't know if I believe this. That it doesn't make sense. I'm a person that comes from a logic and reason standpoint, that if someone's going to do something, there's a reason why they're going to do it, and it's going to benefit them in a certain way. If they're trying to fight off the rebel forces, who's Hezbollah, El-Nusra, ISIS, you name it, they all have them there. The Taliban, Al-Qaeda. That's what the Civil War is about. So why would they gas their own people. It really doesn't make sense. And we do know that there's been reports that he supposedly did it in the past, but it was never confirmed. But we do know for a factual statement that the rebels and or I say the rebels, but really we know that Al Qaeda and other factions like that have used chemical weapons, and they bought them from Saudi Arabia. Have used chemical weapons because when they bought them, they don't really know what the hell they're doing with them.
Yeah.
Right?
And I see what you're saying, because it doesn't make sense for them to openly do it or do it at all, because if they are winning, admitting to doing a chemical strike or just even leaving open the possibility that they did do it destroys them in the public eye, not just in their own country but internationally, because if a government is attacking its own defenseless citizens, it's going to turn everyone against them, not just the United States. It'll turn everyone in Europe, everyone in NATO, Japan, anybody that in any way supports human rights, which is, I'd say, 85% of governments in the world at least say they support human rights. They're not going to...
I would say 100% will say that they support human rights. And when you see it happen, you're going to support the counter
opposition. Exactly.
The opposition. However, you could beat your own child, right? Spank them. But say beating your child is wrong. And when you see somebody else do it maybe differently than you, you're like, what an asshole. So
Exactly.
Just because a nation might do one thing and then oppose another thing, that kind of water is... You can't really tie that together.
At what point is United States involvement in other countries' politics appropriate?
Well, I mean that's a very good question.
Yes, we've all seen the images, right? And then they're horrific. And being a mom or a dad or just a person, you're like, oh my god, look at these kids, right? But those are not your neighbors. Those are not your kids. Why, right? Like, what right do we have to get involved with that? We go, wow, I'm not dealing with you. You have sanctions and different things. You go, that's really wrong, and I'm not dealing with you until you sort your life out, whatever. But having military involvement in something that has nothing to do with you, I mean, where does that line cross? That you're like, no, you shouldn't do that. And it's ticky-tacky because you want to help kids. You're like, no, that's horrible. Don't do those things. But where do you go? Yeah, we should be involved and not let people do that. Because, I don't have the right to tell my neighbor not to yell at her kids and cuss at the bus stop.
Yeah.
Until she cusses loud enough at the bus stop that I was like, hey, lady... My kids can hear you. Can you please just cuss at your own kid? I don't agree with that either, but right, like there's a fine line, and I don't always agree with the UN for that reason because they want to get in everybody's fingers in the pie, and I'm like, no, man, somebody's got to deal with their own shitty pie, right?
That's exactly what you're saying. Because on the ride up here, I was telling Nate, if the U.S. doesn't like someone, I understand there needs to be. We're allowed to do consequences. Like you can. Yeah,
you can not be friends. Yeah, fine. We're just not going to deal with you. We're not going to sell you. We're not going to. Fine.
The analogy that I used was you shouldn't blow somebody up because you don't like them. You should maybe they could charge an extra $1 for a Coke or something when they get it imported. But you don't go blow somebody up. That's the wrong kind of intervention.
Right.
There's humane ways to intervene in someone's politics and economy, and it doesn't involve Tomahawk missiles, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And you look at there's quite a few other countries that kind of go, yeah, I'm just not going to deal with you because I don't agree with that. And once you sort these things out, then maybe we can
why
have
does
a
the U.S.
friendship
have to be the world's police? And that's the major question for many nationalists. So
I understand that because we had a period of isolation in American history that wasn't. It went well for us, but it doesn't go well. And once we become a world power, everybody's kind of watching and waiting. Go, what are they going to do next, right? Like, you're the cool guy on the planet, so what are you doing?
Biggest
we're
thing
going to do that too.
Is being a staunch supporter of Trump, as I was and have been. This is the direct opposite of what he ran on, right?
Well, it also destroys the "I'm in Russia's pocket" narrative. It destroys a couple of things. I've seen that.
Well, exactly.
So
that's what I wanted to talk about.
Chess move,
Well, this is also very much like Saddam Hussein in Iraq, because I remember as a kid seeing the images of him using gas on his people. That was a big tool for the media then to keep us getting further involved in the region
Well, you look at
through.
the
But
dictatorship in
well,
Cuba.
well,
It happened the same way.
what
by a
I wanna
bunch
do
of
right
New
now
York Times
is
stories
focus
and not
on-
real.
I want to
Whoever's
focus
looking
on
about
the idea that Trump, 100. You could go back to his 2013 tweets.
Go back to 2003.
No, but
You know, where it was part of the
2013.
Iraq War and just followed
2013, Obama was looking to do something to overthrow the regime of Assad, right? And Trump actually said, "You cannot do that. You can't go." Thought
Russia's backing Assad, right?
yes.
Okay, so
Most of the
Well,
time.
he's backing the elected government of Syria. That's the way he puts it. Like this is who's in charge. This is who I'm going to deal with. Like
Yeah.
I'm not getting involved in your civil war. This is who. So we have mutual things that I want to get done that makes Russia better.
So-
That's what he said. He's
so-
like, if somebody else comes into
Trump not saying anything and doing it would have had Russia saying that's an act of war against us.
Of course, it's an act of war. From Putin's standpoint, he's a backer of Syria. He has assets in Syria. If you look at the pipelines, the idea of there's two different pipelines that they're talking about putting in. One going through Iraq and Iran through Syria to Russia. One going through Saudi Arabia through Syria that misses, I think goes through Jordan as well, that misses Russia. It cuts Russia totally out of the equation. So this is like, there's a petronomics, right, that this has to play with. And like, I don't think Russia would or Putin would be concerned with Syria if it didn't have anything to do with money or oil or anything to do with that to begin with. So if money's the rule of everything, right? So if these pipelines that he's thinking about, that's why he's backing them, and if you're attacking the people that he's supporting for these pipelines, which is his currency essentially, well, that's why it would be an act of war, because you're messing with his money. It's just like any guy on the street corner. You start selling a different pack of drugs on my corner, well, you're messing with my cash flow. I don't like that. You know, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At the moment, I don't see why it's logical for either of them, really, because with how unstable Syria is, why would anybody want to put a pipeline through there? Because God knows, as soon as you make somebody angry, they're going to say, well, there's a pipeline, and I'm sure there's going to be some spot that's undefended. Somebody can just walk over there and, for lack of a better word, poke a hole in it, blow it up, light it on fire, run a car into it,
So it's just asking for a terrorist act.
to steal it and sell it for scrap.
Well, I mean, there's
It's a very
pipelines
unstable
running through the whole
region.
world. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody bombed the water supply or that big water thing that Gaddafi did. I mean, he that was like the eighth wonder of the world. I don't know if y'all guys know what I'm talking about, but he built this big thing. What was it? From the Mediterranean Sea to the ocean. I can't remember exactly.
I don't
what
recall
it was,
where it
but
went, but I know what you're talking
It was
about.
a big water structure.
For getting clean water to all his people.
Yeah.
It was
I can't
amazing.
totally bring it up off the top of my head.
It was a wonder of infrastructure. Definitely.
Yeah, it was definitely. He paid for it, but nobody attacked that. I mean, that's helping everyone.
But he's dead now.
No, essentially, like the way that ISIS has got its strongholds is by manning some of these oil spots, so they get money from these oil spots. At least that's some of the narrative that's been put out there.
Some of the videos that I've seen explaining the petrodollar and how that all works, it makes sense that we wouldn't want for it to go through Russia personally, because then they can just cut out the dollar and trade in a different way, which is the same with Saddam Hussein not wanting to trade with the dollar. That's one of the reasons his regime had to go.
Correct. Well, his thing was he was about to get off the petrodollar, which the petrodollar is the format of oil exchange and currency that makes you have to pay in American bills.
And if it runs through Iraq and Iran, then
Well, I mean, I don't know about this pipeline, if the petrodollar would change or not, but it definitely, one, we don't support Iraq and Iran very much. We definitely support Saudi Arabia. We definitely don't support Russia. So it definitely benefits that secular group
yeah.
that we are not allies with. So why us as United States would we want to empower them? Now you might think, hey, that's their business deal. What's it got to do with us? Why are we starting a war? Well, we also have global economy. And I'm not a globalist, but we have a global economy that a lot of the infrastructure is based in the United States. You know, Exxon Valdez Oil is, I guess, more so United States infrastructure. And it taps into all these oil supplies. So the oil could be definitely a big thing that has to do with what side are we on, really.
And how much influence do we allow someone to have based on where the oil goes?
And so it brings the point, are we really at war with the Syrian government over their actions, or is it their sides that they're choosing to align themselves with? We want them to align themselves with us and our allies for a monetary value, right? And I'm not saying that that's the reason why we're sending Tomahawk missiles. I don't think that's a good idea, especially when our economy's down and it's about a $1.5 million per missile. We just sent 59 of them, so that's roughly $110 million worth of artillery that we just shot instead of putting into our infrastructure here at the United States. You know what I mean? So,
that's enough to make you nauseous.
Yeah.
That much money literally flying away and blowing up.
Yeah. And we didn't kill anyone.
I know.
Like, personally, okay, maybe I'm a sick sadistic prick, but if we're going to spend that type of money, I better see some bodies.
I see what you mean.
Some of the bad guys' bodies.
Yeah, I want to see the bad guy's body.
Actually hit the infrastructure you want to hit and destroy what you want to, which maybe they did, but I haven't heard any confirmed destruction of
I haven't even seen
any
photos.
weapons or infrastructure they could use to make weapons or send weapons or anything.
There's
It
little
was a
photos.
depot.
Yeah.
It was like their Air Force depot.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was like think of like our
Planes and
right,
stuff.
like a right
Can
here
you
up
pull
north
up
one.
photos of the airfield after it was attacked?
Yeah, there's very little footage right now of it. And there's, like I said,
I would think they would have had a drone over it immediately. To
Well,
see
Russia
what
has a
happened.
drone. Russia has a drone on it. I think that's on the link I sent you earlier today. There's just not like much evidence that it destroyed a whole bunch or what all happened.
Go back. Shit. Sorry.
But anyways, besides that, while she's pulling that up, not only is the pipelines an issue, like a reason, like the oil. And I hate to say this, but we're going to venture into Conspiracy Island on this one. And, it's coming. I have to bring it up because there's a lot of other areas that play in this Syrian United States connection. So you think of the Syrian connection to they back Palestine, who we back Israel. Israel actually looks at Syria as like a terrorist.
The entire government, the legitimate government, right?
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
So if we're allies of Israel and they back Palestine as being, rightful owners of at least some of that land. I'm not going to say that, they're trying to push Israel to non-existence, but they are definitely sympathizers and backers of the Palestine movement. And we really shouldn't call it a movement, but I digress. And between that and I gotta throw it out there, it's one of the last remaining countries that doesn't have a Rothschild bank.
Yeah.
A World Central Bank.
Yeah.
So you start putting all these things together, and it makes my mind really start to wonder, And I'm gonna give you my hypothesis right now, and then y'all guys can throw your shots at me or whatever. But like I said, I'm a staunch Trump supporter. He was against globalism in all his speeches, all his rallies. He was against meddling in these type of affairs. I think the Russian connection between him and some of his staff, or whatever the case may be, or all the bullshit that the mainstream media narrative is putting out there, kind of got to him. So he decided he was going to strike. But at the same time, he has advisors that want a certain thing. Now, at the same time, I don't know if anyone noticed that certain people were being dismissed. Like, you know, they got rid of the Mike Flynn, they got rid of this person, that person. And Steve Bannon, who was definitely, he was the editor-in-chief of Breitbart, who was definitely against globalism, right?
They didn't get rid of him personally.
They didn't get rid of him, but he left the National Security Conference. And then the very next day, we're launching missiles.
Well,
No, it could be an act of coincidence, but I don't believe in coincidences in the first place. I have a feeling that some of his advisors are globalists, and they have in some way tricked him to feeling like this is the best way to do it. Like, he's definitely a family type of person. You can look at his kids and the way they respect him. He respects his kids. So when he sees kids being gassed or blown up or whatever the case may be, he's enraged, just like any of us are.
I'm sure it's very easy to use the pictures and things they've seen to manipulate someone like that. It's not beyond the realm of reason to think that they're using the pictures and
I think they do
the
that on
testimony and
purpose.
everything.
I
Of
think they always
course.
have. Oh, what were we just watching? What did we just listen to?
We were watching a guy named Lionel. I don't know his last name, but he has a YouTube account, Lionel Nation, right? And he's an older guy, a little squeaky voice, very smart, and I recommend all my listeners and anybody to listen to him. He doesn't play any different sides. I mean, he was against a lot of the stuff that's been going on, like, you know, he's being leaked and this and that, and whether he was taped or not, or illegally surveillanced. But then he's turned around and totally condemned the actions of Trump, just like I am, and I'm not his puppet either. Trust me, because I don't agree with everything he says, but he's a smart guy. Yeah, it was. We watched Lionel Nation. Right? I don't know his actual name, but that's his YouTube address. And he was interviewing Caleb Maupin. He's an investigative reporter for RT, and he's an analyst. So, from that conversation, what did you pick up?
I was curious about, do you really think that that's what they do? They're going to show us pictures of, dead kids or gas kids or people to pull at your heartstrings to go, well, who's the bad guy, and we're going to go get him, and to create this kind of chaos and animosity, like, where's the bad guy?
Well, I think they definitely did that for Saddam Hussein.
Right, and Gaddafi,
Definitely.
and are they doing that again, right? Like, are they doing this again? Do you guys think that? Because as much as you hate to see this, at the same time, it's like, are they doing this on purpose to make us want a bad guy to go beat him up, right?
Well, I think that we've seen this happen so many times, almost systematically, the exact same way that being fed all of these videos and all of these pictures and everything, we've become desensitized to it, to where war isn't that big of a thing, kids dying from the gases, like, the average person thinks, well, what can I really do? But at the same time, I don't think the seriousness is brought to the table because of how many decades in a row we've watched this keep happening.
I kind of disagree with that. I don't think the majority of people have a nihilist point of view. I think this is done very specifically because most people are caring. Most people are like, yes, I'm going to adopt puppies and kittens.
It says something
But if
great.
we cared so much,
Well, because they virtue signal to get you to spend money on all these things. Like, oh, support your vets, support your local this. And everybody's like, yes, let's just throw money at it. I don't actually have to do anything. but I want to be virtue signaled into feeling like I'm doing the right thing. So I think that the majority of humanity who sees this stuff, at least in the Western world, is going to want a virtue signal being like, yeah, let's go get the bad guy. So I need a bad guy.
Well, let's look at the silver lining. I mean, at one point, we can say the beautiful thing about this world, this whole world, not just the United States, this whole world, is that you have people that care. You really have people that care about children.
Right, but it's
if you show a child that has been disformed or mangled or died from any type of treatment, whether it's gas, bombing, anything.
Unless it's abortion, right?
Well, abortion's different. They're not a child yet.
Okay, I'm just saying.
That's a different conversation, huh?
All right.
Then our heartstrings are pulled and we care.
Well, because we think about our own kids, we think about our own family, or nieces and nephews or whoever, right?
But people do it, and so you gotta love that. You gotta love that side of this society that we care. Because if everybody was like, "Fuck them kids," you'd be like, what?
Well, I think that's a lot of the times when you, like, Ron Paul and Rand Paul have both come out and be like, this does not involve America.
Right, but
and
what
most
do
people
they
think
do?
that they're heartless. And
What-
it's like, no, that's not what I'm saying.
What do we do?
First we need the facts, then you proceed. It's just like when you look at a cop shooting on the TV, they rile you all up like, yeah, and you're like, wait a minute, let's get all the facts. Calm down.
Trump was riled up by his globalist partners.
Correct. That they would do that on purpose, rile you up, and get the situation going so that you are out for blood. And where you don't have all the facts. We don't know. Like, earlier in the conversation, it was pointed out that, do we really know who did this gas attack? Who did it? Syrian government was saying they didn't do it.
Somebody had to do
they
it.
did it. Somebody
So
had
it's
to
very
do
easy
it.
to blame who you
Want to blame to be the bad guy, right?
Exactly.
That's my point. So it's
Well-
not saying that you're not compassionate if you question it, but it is being taken as, well, Rand Paul being in Congress and stuff is like, well, he's uncompassionate to this situation just because
There
he
should
doesn't
be
deal
a
with
thing
Americans.
such as in the Lionel guy that we just spoke about talked about. He was a lawyer that you can. It's called a 401 something that you cannot put your dead child in front of a mother in a mangled state as part of the
Like testimony or
yeah,
different thing. Yeah.
because they will, the judges, not the judges, but the jury will see them, go frantic.
Yeah, and you want to
Yeah.
protect, you want to defend.
Yeah,
you
so
wanna-
immediately it's going to strike that nerve.
they immediately become irrational and just want
Justice.
someone to pay for what happened, regardless
Exactly.
of who it could be.
Which is the beautiful side of humanity, is have that rational and emotional side.
Yeah, so it's pretty,
Yeah, I get
but it can also strike at the wrong person. So we're claiming a side is behind this, and once again I go back to why would he?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
When he's
That
winning the
seems
war, he's winning so far. He had been winning, not winning, but he was making strides. He was
progress.
progressing through Syria. I mean, we've obviously known that there's been issues with Syria, right? If we really want to fight ISIS, and I think that most Americans, the idea of ISIS and this caliphate is not a good idea. We can love thy neighbor, right? And I'm not Christian by any means, but we can love thy neighbor.
Unless your neighbor's trying to kill you. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's biblical in itself. Is in the Old Testament, the eye for the eye and right hand for the hand and that kind of thing. That's not Jesus said to turn the other cheek. That doesn't mean to just let somebody walk over you. That's not how it works. But you're supposed to essentially, treat others how you want to be treated, and then the second round you treat others how they treat you. And that's kind of the defining line that it's like, all right, well, you've come messed up all my stuff, and no, I'm not going to have this anymore. Now we're going to fight, right? Like,
So one of the other things is that Syria is like one of the only established somewhat governments over there. Everybody else is kings, right?
yeah.
And they're all Islamic states. So the reason why they're attacking Syria is because they're they're one of the highest Christian communities, if not the highest Christian community. Don't quote me on that, but you can look it up. I believe they are the
secular,
highest.
right? They have a variety of different things.
In the Middle East.
Right. I think they're one of the few places that doesn't charge you a fee
Yeah,
for being
yeah.
Christian. Yeah.
No, they're an open
Other
society.
than Israel, but
They are almost a democracy.
yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
So, could there not be a civil war because the caliphate and these? I mean, you got Hezbollah, Nusra,
Nusra?
whatever.
Nusra Front or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't pronounce them all. Taliban, Al Qaeda, ISIS, all these people fighting them.
Well, I mean, none of us are Muslims, so, but I know that I've read, I mean, maybe some of the listeners, know this answer, but I know that I read that the goal as far as, like ISIS and as a religious, right, to push the religion, which I kind of more think they hijacked the religion to justify, which...
Well, most Muslims will tell you they hijacked a religion.
Right, which I agree with. I think so as well. But there's a spot in Syria that they're trying to get to cause the holy war in Armageddon, to bring it on, to bring it forth. And it's a desolate, nowhere place, but it's in like the kind of top corner of Syria, and that's what they're going for, is that they can push to get to there, and that's where it's supposed to come down. Now, I'm not an expert on the Quran, you know what I mean? And you go looking on the internet and you go, is this for real? Like, I don't really know. You hear a lot of stuff, well, they call for death and these things, but it's not actually written in English, so how true is that, or is it biased?
Yeah,
I don't know anymore. You don't know
Well,
anymore.
my
That's
research
crazy.
on the Quran itself is kind of like baffling to me, because out of any other religion, they put Jesus on a certain totem pole
Yeah.
higher than even the
Muhammad.
Jews, but
Yeah.
we
He's not on the
we
totem pole.
ally with
The Jews. Right?
the Jews
Exactly.
in Israel,
Why is it so easy for us to ally with the Jews but not the Muslims based on how they think? Because
because
I can tell you why.
yeah. Most Christians will tell you that the Israelis and Israel is
the children of the Lord. And
the children of the Lord, and that's the promised land, and that's
But
what belongs to them.
It even says in the Bible, not word for word, but the people who live in the promised land, that does not make you children of the Lord. You have to be a follower of the Lord and of Jesus.
in the
New Testament,
yes,
exactly.
he breaks the
Yeah.
old covenant for the new covenant. But
Yeah,
the
so
reason why the Christians
Jewish people would
dislike the
actually not be
Muslims
part of
is
the
the
Lord.
Crusades.
Exactly.
the reason why the Christians hate the Muslims is the Crusades, because starting in 600 AD, the Crusades weren't fought as some sort of Christian. We're just the best.
Well, I don't want to get into a religious text here.
I'm just saying, they're arguing over the same land, but they've been arguing over it since, right? Like, the Byzantine Empire was the
1500
only
years.
thing blocking Great Britain, from the Muslim invasion. They considered it an invasion then.
Okay, so
Right, so
that
I can see
would
why they would
that
argue.
would lead back
That's
to the Syrians backing the Palestinians.
Palestinians? Is it
Palestinians?
Palestinians or Palestinians?
Palestinians?
Okay, fair enough.
Whatever.
You would know. Okay, good.
Instead of the Israelis.
Wow, why?
What do
What do you mean? Why would that make a difference?
because
If you just said they were secular, so I'm wondering why that would make a difference, why they would back the Palestinians rather than the Israelis. Right? If you just said they were secular.
because the United States backs the Israelis, so if you back the Palestinians,
Palestinians.
Yeah, if you back the Palestinians, then you're not
Sorry.
backing
Yeah.
Israel because they're going against each other.
But in theory, you could back both.
That's what I was thinking.
In the sense
In
that
theory.
you want them to reach a mutual peace of cooperation, but you can't back either if they're saying we got to kill them or they're going to kill us
Yeah.
or vice
but who
or
is
anything like that.
Israel's greatest ally, and who is United States' greatest ally, is one and the same. They're like boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that the kings of the Middle East have allowed it to be there and so powerful as long as they
Well,
have.
because it's so powerful. Because the Israel army is almost as powerful. It's like a small United States.
Yeah, seriously,
that's
they
how
are that
powerful.
Yeah.
The power per square mile could be. I guarantee you, it's
Trust me,
leaps and
if you
bounds
went to
of
war
so
with
many
the
people.
Israelis, you would go to war not only with the Israelis, which had enough firepower to knock out quite a bit, but you would also go to war with the United States.
And NATO. Because...
And NATO.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't even know about that.
Well, NATO was against Russia, and that's why that's a big... Bleh. But, I mean...
But that's where it's headed.
At the end of the day, it just blows my mind that, you know, we're all sitting around having this conversation, and there's people out there probably wondering the same thing. Like, we know that you can't necessarily right the sins of the past, right? But at the end of the day, when you see these pictures, again, of kids and people, and, like, why? I just don't understand. Like, I can't wrap my mind around why. Like, there is no gas line, there is no thing that is going to possess me to want this to continue, regardless of where it is.
Exactly. There's no justification for the things they do, because no matter what issues you have, you don't need to be blowing up children or blowing up
people,
anybody. Period.
Like I'm not like we could disagree like right now, and I'm not gonna blow you up.
I'm not
That's
gonna blow you up. I'm
not
not gonna
a thought
stab
process
you
in my mind. And even if I was like technically I'm the dictator of my household, but I don't spank my kids because we disagree and they piss me off. Like, well, how many times do I tell you don't take milk into the living room? Now the carpet's gonna stink, but I'm not gonna beat the crap out of them because they did it. You're gonna go, okay, look, this is what. Let me explain this to you, and I just don't understand. Like,
but that's the smallest form of power.
Pissing contest that happens over here. If it's over money, over to oil, it's power. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Well, psychopaths easily rise to power because they'll do whatever it takes to get there. So it's
like the charismatic.
so everyone's a psychopath.
It's pretty common. It's pretty common. I mean, think about it. They will kill someone to get in to the position that they want to get into.
So it's like gangs in New York, but like worldwide.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I agree with that.
I don't get it, right? Like, we were just discussing.
Maybe.
We were just discussing the other night, watching. I said something about gangster something, and he brought up what's that movie? Come on, shoot. You know the big one, the Scarface.
Yeah.
Scarface. And I was just like, that's a tragedy. He goes, what? And I'm like, seriously, no, because we're talking about hip hop and the game and you know social issues. That's a separate episode. But anyways, and I watched it and viewed it as a tragedy. Like, look how sad. Look how sad. You had the entrepreneurial mindset. You were smart enough, but you chose to spend it here. And then look what happened to you in the end. And I look at the world the same way. Like, we're better than this. We're smarter than this. You know, it doesn't have to be about religion, your beliefs, whatever. Like, there's so much more in common that they're trying to keep from you. You know, and it's like, you know, people forget that, like, Christianity is Arabic. It's from all of these places. That's why there's a battle over land, and I get that part. Mm-hmm. I understand, you know, neighbors, oh, that you're on my lawn. That I understand. But blowing up cities and people and schools and hospitals, I don't get it. I just simply don't get it. And I feel like we should be so much further than this as humanity.
There's so many more things we could be accomplishing. I see exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, but not in like a globalist power way.
Exactly. I just
but
mean
individually, right?
Human,
like
individual progress.
Yeah, individual excellence. And I just don't understand why that's just not more of a focus, right? Like if you, let's say you're in a region that's third world and, you know, then you bring in the IQ and the bell curve and all these things, why not work to uplift these situations? I just don't get it. The whole thing, the Syria conflict or war or whatever, it's crazy to me. It's just crazy. It's a lot of death and it's kind of gross.
And it just keeps happening.
Yeah.
From one country
it's gonna
to the next.
Continue to happen because there's a globalist state.
Okay.
And sorry, this is my opinions.
Back to Conspiracy Island.
Yeah. We're stretching the
island. It's about to become a conspiracy nation.
Yeah, it's conspiracy nation, and you can see how many Trump supporters have jumped off the ship already.
Yeah.
Alex Jones, Paul Joseph Watson, many of them are just jumping off. Me myself, I'm not jumping off. Like, I still understand what he was saying about nationalism. And he wasn't a nationalist, but I like what he did there so far. But this statement here that he's done and where he intends to go so far, I am not with. And
I understand, but that's the thing.
It
that I
hurts.
love
It actually
about
hurts
Trump
inside.
supporters.
Like, because like I was such a staunch
It's
Trump
almost
supporter.
Yeah, but-
it's almost hard to hear.
But we're
from
not
you.
sheeps. Like, just because you could say, oh, I kind of like what Obama did, right? I hated everything else. But here and there, I was like, I like that you didn't get involved, right? Like, I didn't
Yeah.
like your whole red line thing, but I like that you kind of waited to see what was going to happen next. I agreed with that. Overall, as a president, no, I didn't vote for him either time. I was like, no, you're crazy. You just want bigger government. That stinks. I'm not voting for that.
No,
That's
I
not me.
really felt that he could bridge the gap between Russia and us and everybody
Who's
else.
Trump or Obama?
Trump.
Okay.
And that we could fight ISIS and get this mythical creature off of the land. And help us internally. I think he's still helping us internally. But at this point, it's going to be the wrong way. It's going to be through war.
Are
And
you
war
sure?
also is privatized.
Yeah.
But it's going to privatize the wrong people.
Are you sure? Are you sure that's what he's going to do? I mean, we don't know. I mean, that's kind of a big statement to make. I don't know. We don't know.
No, I'm saying from what it looks like. He's already made statements that he's ready to attack again.
What if I'm just saying, like he, I think you said earlier today, it might have been on here, but earlier today you said he wants its power through strength, right? So if you show strength, like you tell your kids that it's like, look, if I get to 3, I'm gonna spank your butt, right? And so your kids, you may never spank them in their whole life because they're like, I hope they never get to 3, right? Like, but it's a warning. Like, look, I will do this thing. This seems like a warning. Nothing has happened yet. I think we still have to wait, but that seemed like a big statement to say it's definitely going in this direction when we still don't know. We're still right in the middle of seeing what's gonna happen.
This is really weird when, if anyone needed to be hit, yeah, why are we focusing on North Korea? We haven't heard nothing from Syria. But North Korea, however, they're putting up how they are trying to have their nuclear weapons tested. They're trying to get a nuclear weapon here, a ballistic missile to the United States.
Yeah.
And further.
Yeah.
Now, he's condemned. Oh, well, that won't happen. We'll do that. Those are the people we should be worried about, because this guy is a nut job.
Yeah.
He's a real communist.
Well, he launched the missiles in Syria, meeting with, I don't know if it was the leader or the prime minister.
Sean.
I can't pronounce it.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't want to chop it up badly, so I'm just not gonna say it and just say that that's who it was. While that happened, like he made that call like in the moment. So, like I said, this could be as like, no, I'm serious. This is power through strength. Like I mean it.
No, do you think he
it.
spoke to the Chinese guy, the China guy?
Do you think he was like, watch this, and this is what I'm talking about? So what are you gonna do about North Korea? They're your neighbor. That could be a thing. I don't know.
It could be,
I'm
but
just saying,
at the
like,
same
you see what I'm
time, yeah.
Like this, I'm serious. Boom.
Yeah.
Look, now I'm showing you I'm really serious.
I see what both of you were saying about how it definitely seems like it's going to progress towards war and how maybe it won't because it's just a warning. But sending 59 Tomahawk missiles, that is a hell of a warning. I mean, that's if you wanted to send a warning, you'd blockade something or shoot one missile or something.
But I think
it
that's what
seems a
Obama
little.
did, so he wanted to come off stronger. Like,
Yes.
I don't know, but I mean,
It
Okay,
just
but
seems a little extreme.
also 80 people died in this attack, and we launched 59 missiles.
how did 80 people die?
I think it was 80. You
I
can
thought it was
fact check that.
7.
Or no, maybe it was 80 people affected by,
Okay.
like hospitalized because of.
Yeah.
But I think I read that it was more than 1,000 people that were killed in the last gas attack,
Yeah.
and that was during Obama's administration, right?
Yeah, he bombed a hospital. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know, so I get it. I mean,
I don't want to get on
disagree
Obama's
with this.
reign through Syria or anything
Yeah.
like that and go through the whole history of Syria. I'm just looking at where we are at now
And moving forward.
and moving forward. That
Fair enough.
it actually, what was it? What was it that he was being picked on? Is he that narcissistic that he was being picked on, and he didn't want to be a Russian buddy? That he was like going to go against the Russians.
He's going to prove that he's not with the Russians.
Yeah. To the point where Russia's like, all right, you fuck.
We get it. You're not with us.
We're sitting in
Yeah.
a boat.
We're sitting in a boat and we're ready for war, which that's like the only power that can like kind of fuck us up.
Yeah, and I think that would be a power that would bring the war to us, where we haven't really experienced that.
No,
It's always been a way.
that's the only power that could actually bring us a war.
Yeah.
Red Dawn all over. You know, so or is it really the global banking? Is it really the oil fields? Is it? I mean, what is it?
It's
Is
a
it-
web
is
of
it-
all of it.
I would love to hear from somebody out there who stumbles upon this video, wants to get in the water and actually, you know,
And
let
yeah,
me know.
streamers, like
Seriously.
dive in with me. You know, hit me up in the comments and hit us up. You know, I want to hear from you